Exposed, 3 spine-chilling school lockdown stories that haunted students for over a decade. It was just another typical Monday morning in Oak Park, Illinois. The kind where the mist clung to the streets and everything felt comfortably ordinary, until the loudspeaker crackled to life. "Attention students, we are initiating a school-wide lockdown," the principal's voice rang out, icy and authoritative. Maya's heart dropped as the panic flared in the pit of her stomach. Lockdown? What could be wrong? Classrooms transformed into tiny fortresses. Students pressed against windows, eyes widening with fear, trying to grasp the grim reality unfolding just outside their sanctuary. Whispers filled the room. What could it mean? A threat, an intruder? The usual hum of school life drained away, replaced by a suffocating silence broken only by hushed voices. The school was built on haunted land. "You know that, right?" Someone dared to say that it blew over as a false alarm, but whispers continued to swirl like autumn leaves. Later, an unsettling sense of dread crept into the air. Rumors began to surface about a teacher who had mysteriously vanished decades ago. The more they dug, the more layers of ominous history surfaced, stories about former students, dark secrets, and eerie happenings. Every lockdown felt heavier, as students were caught between the mundane and the horrifying. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One day, Maya sat across from Mr. Wolf, their beloved history teacher, during a tutoring session. His passion for the past was infectious, but today something felt off. His demeanor shifted, the glow in his eyes dimmed, revealing something deeper and darker lurking beneath. Who was he really? Hours with him turned into an unsettling investigation into the very fabric of their school's past. They never should be found. The old yearbook tucked in a forgotten corner of the library, pictures of students with hollow eyes staring into the camera, someone missing from the edges. The tension escalated quickly when Sarah, one of Maya's closest friends, vanished during another routine drill. One moment they were huddled together, and in the next, she was gone, a blink of shadow swallowed by the unmistakable unease creeping into Oak Park's suburban serenity. The bell rang hours later, but Sarah hadn't returned. Students were walking around wide-eyed, fear carving lines into their faces with every whispered theory. What was left of their safe haven began to feel like a trap. They discovered the abandoned wing of the school, cold, dark, and cloaked in tales of rituals gone wrong. As they tiptoed through the dust, the atmosphere crackled with unspoken memories. Maya's heart raced. Was it curiosity that drove them here or something darker? As the air filled with a haunting chill, she faced a choice: trust their guide or shatter what remained of their adolescent innocence. The line between predator and protector blurred uncomfortably, as the lockdown bells tolled once more. Shadows danced along the walls, creeping ever closer to their sanctuary. Holding her breath, she waited for the next revelation. What lurked just outside their classroom door? The school was eerily quiet, a haunting stillness that settled like a thick fog. Maya's heart hammered painfully against her ribs as she strained to hear anything beyond the walls. The soft breaths of her classmates surrounded her, a collective fear echoing in the room. The low hum of the emergency lights flickered above, their soft glow almost mocking in the tense silence. "Where is Sarah?" Maya whispered, her voice barely carrying over the thick air. She glanced around at her classmates, their faces were pale as sheets, the fear reflecting in their wide eyes. "We should check the hallway." Jake, a tall boy who was usually the bravest of the group, suggested hesitantly. He glanced toward the door like it was an unknown beast, ready to pounce. Maya shivered. What if something is out there? A low murmur spread through the group, whispers of the land the school occupied, of the teacher who disappeared. They were trapped, both by physical barriers and the weight of supernatural lore. Suddenly, the speaker buzzed, jolting everyone upright. "Stay calm. Authorities are on their way," the principal's voice rang out, breaking the anxiety-laden whispering that raced through the room. Maya felt her gut churn. How could she feel calm in a situation where Sarah had vanished? Her instincts were screaming for her to move to escape this creeping menace that gripped them all. But where could they go? "I can't take this anymore," shouted Anna, a girl prone to fits of anxiety. She leapt up, fists clenched, her breath coming out in rapid gasps. "I need to look for her." Maya caught Anna's arm. "No. We stay together. We can't just go wandering off." Outside, they heard a muffled thump, followed by an unholy silence. The air thickened with unease, like a heavy fog dragging down their spirits. Everyone's eyes darted to the door, waiting for something to emerge, something dreadfully alive. "Look at the yearbook again," Maya urged, desperation coloring her voice. Memories flooded back those hollow stares, the missing girl from the edges of the photos. What if Sarah was a part of that chilling legacy? Carefully, they gathered around, fingers trembling as they flipped through the brittle pages in the dim light. Each photo felt like a ghostly visitation, images freezing moments of joy now shadowed by dread. And then, there it was again, Sarah's smiling face alongside those faded, hollow eyes. But something new caught Maya's attention. In the background stood a shadow, an outline of a figure that seemed out of place, lurking just out of reach, arms extended, beckoning. Panic surged again, clawing at Maya's throat. "This can't be real, we're just imagining it." She squeezed her eyes shut, desperate to wake from this nightmare. But once she opened them, the classroom door creaked. The handle twisted slowly, a torturous moment dragging into eternity. Eyes widened. Muffled voices filtered in. A window slammed shut somewhere down the hall, punctuating the heavy air. "Stay back!" Jake shouted, grabbing a chair, ready to defend against whatever might emerge. As the door swung open, revealing an empty corridor beyond, chills swept through the room. Maya took a step forward, peering into the darkness beyond, the hairs on her neck prickling. "Is anyone there?" she called, hesitatingly at first, but then louder, desperation rising like bile in her throat. Silence. And then, just before she had the courage to turn away, a dark figure stepped into view, silhouetted by the flickering emergency lights. Square shoulders, an unnerving stillness, and an unmistakable absence of features, the uncanny resemblance to a faceless shadow in a tattered yearbook. Maya's breath hitched, heart racing, every instinct telling her to flee. "Run!" she screamed, as the figure began to move forward, lurching with an unnatural gait. The shadows were no longer just ghosts in their memories, they had come alive, and the fight for survival ignited in the classroom. But would they find the exit in time? Panic morphed into sheer terror as they lunged toward the door, body after body crashing against it. "It wouldn't budge." A tortured scream echoed through the hall. Sarah's name rang in Maya's ears like a death knell, haunting and endless. What if the darkness stowed secrets worse than they'd ever imagined? What if the real nightmare had only just begun? The figure advanced, grotesque and unnatural, its movements jerky and disjointed like a marionette whose strings had been pulled by a mad puppet master. Panic ignited a frenzy, legs propelled by sheer terror, but the door remained an inanimate wall, an iron blockade standing between them and the darkness that beckoned from the hallway. "Move!" Jake shouted, shoving his shoulder against the door, but it didn't budge. The others crowded around him, their breaths like frantic whispers, hearts beating in sync with a primal urgency. Maya turned back just in time to see the shadow reach the threshold, blocking the flickering light. Her stomach twisted. "What is that?" she gasped, her voice cracking. Just get away." Anna sobbed, retreating toward the classroom windows, but they were sealed shut, locked tight by an unseen hand. The realization struck, hard and cold. They were trapped. The figure stood in the doorway, a blank face where features should have been an empty canvas that breathed, a void that promised something worse than death itself. It stretched an arm toward them, fingers splayed wide. The air thickened, suffocating, as if the very essence of fear coiled around them like a serpent, squeezing tighter. "Are you all okay?" A shaky voice fractured the silence. It was Lisa, barely a whisper, her eyes darting around as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. "We can't just stay here. We need to shut up." Jake snapped, trying to hold everyone together. "We have to think." But what was there to think about? Only one idea spread among the group, a haunting realization, echoing unspoken thoughts: if they couldn't escape, then their only hope was to find Sarah. Maya's gaze remained locked on the figure. It was like staring into a well of darkness, one that threatened to pull her under. "Does anyone have a phone?" she questioned, desperation underlying every word. "We could call for help." "No signal. It's all dead." Jake seethed, panic lacing his voice. They were stranded, a ship with no sails in the stormy sea of terror that loomed beyond the door. The muffled thump came again, distant but loud enough to send a shiver through the group. It was followed by an agonized scream from somewhere down the hall, shrill and filled with despair. A voice they recognized. It was Mr. Carter, their history teacher. His cry pierced their hearts, shattering any remaining shred of courage. The shadow in the doorway seemed to draw strength from that scream, shifting slightly as if sensing their fear. "We can't just wait to die," Maya yelled, her voice climbing in pitch. It rang out, defiant against the thick air. "We have to do something." Just then, the emergency lights flickered violently, plunging the room into a heartbeat of darkness before they resumed their sickly glow. In that brief moment, the classroom felt colder, the shadow thicker, and when the light returned, the figure was gone. "Where is it? Where did it go?" Anna's voice quivered, eyes wide with disbelief, looking from face to face. An unbearable tension mounted, suffocating them further. "Maybe it's gone," one student murmured, half hopeful. "No," Jake shouted, his face pale. "It's playing with us." The reality of their situation mounted like heavy stones piling on their chests. They had to be smart. They had to act. Maya surveyed the room, frantic eyes seeking something, anything that could help. "The windows. We can break the glass." But before anyone could respond, the lights flickered again, and the dark figure reappeared across the room, closer now, its presence saturating the space with dread. The classroom seemed to contract around them, walls pressing in like a vice. "Together," Jake urged, rallying the group. "We charge at the windows. No looking back." As they stumbled forward, fueled by raw instinct, the figure lunged swift and eerie, closing the distance between them. It was now or never. Would they break free, or would the shadows claim them? A loud shattering noise erupted, and Maya's heart dropped. The figure was not the only horror lurking in the school. As darkness surged forward, she felt the cold embrace behind her, and dread consumed her thoughts. Just then, a voice crept in from behind the darkness, whispering words that twisted Maya into a knot of fear. "You shouldn't have come." What had they awoken? What other horrors lay hidden in the corners of this cursed school? Jake's breath came in shallow gasps as he wheeled around, eyes darting, looking for the source of the whispered words. The walls felt like they were closing in. Panic surged again. The shadow's presence seemed to seep into every corner of the classroom, making the air dense and heavy. "Who is there?" Jake yelled, his voice trembling, challenging the darkness that seemed to ripple in response. With shaky hands, Anna clutched Maya's arm. "We need to find a way out, now." Her eyes were wide, reflecting the horror around them, but deep down, Maya could see a flicker of determination. But the shadows loomed heavier, as if taunting them. "Maybe we can use something to break the door," Maya suggested, her mind racing with the might of desperation. Maximizing their chances was paramount. She scanned the room, looking for anything that could serve as a weapon, a desk leg, a chair, anything. "I'll check the back." Anna said, moving toward the supply closet, her footsteps echoing on the cold floor, fading into the oppressive silence. Be quick. Jake barked, keeping his eyes glued to the doorway, where the figure had last been, aching for some sign of movement. Shadows danced at the edges of the flickering light like phantoms, giving life to their worst fears. Then, there was again the distant, familiar scream of Mr. Carter. It crawled through the walls, penetrating their thoughts, a nagging reminder that they would face whatever terror lurked beyond the classroom doors. Suddenly, a shadow flickered by the window. Maya's heart leaped. It's coming. Her voice cut through the growing tension. Everyone froze, their breath hitching in unison. Keep moving. Jake urged, adrenaline spiking his resolve. They had to escape. There was no other option. Every ounce of instinct screamed at them to flee. What if it's just waiting? Lisa whispered, panic setting in. Then we take it by surprise. Move. Jake's voice was a knife, sharp and definitive. Maya rushed to the window, pounding her fists against the glass, feeling it vibrate beneath her palms. You can break it, right? She called to Anna, who was now rummaging through the closet. I have something. Anna's voice emerged, strained but charged with purpose. We'll need to act fast. With a loud clang, Anna pulled out a fire extinguisher. The red canister felt heavy in her hands, an unlikely savior, and she rushed toward the window. The second stretched into an eternity, the figure's presence loomed on the other side of the door. They could feel its eyes on them, tracking their every move, but the terror held them still. On 3. Jake ordered, taking a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. Glass shattered around them like falling rain, shards reflecting the dim light. The room erupted with sound, the scream of breaking glass, their own cries mingling with the echoes. Was it enough? They had created an escape, but what awaited them outside? Maya made the first jump, scrabbling through the jagged opening, followed urgently by Jake and Anna. They could hear the figure moving, a slithering sound of dread snapping closer. Lisa hesitated, glancing back toward the gaping mouth of the door, beckoning them into darkness. We can't leave her. Maya screeched, but Jake gripped her shoulder. Run. His eyes bore the weight of urgency. Together, they plunged into the frigid night air, landing hard on the ground below. The grass was cool, the darkness enveloped them, but as they turned, the window shattered behind them with a furious crackle, and the figure surged forward. What was that? Lisa gasped, scrambling out of the opening, the staggered breaths from the group intertwined with the thrum of impending doom, but Maya's gaze fixed on the woods that bordered the school property, thick and gnarled. Over there. We have to get to the trees. She yelled, pointing. But before they could make a move, the ground trembled. A cacophony of unnatural sounds echoed from within the school, howls, screeches, and the unmistakable clattering of footsteps that chilled their bones. An ominous wind whipped through the air, chilling them deeper than the night. They glanced back toward the school, the fear in their eyes mirrored in each other's. Are we safe? Anna breathed, her voice caught in her throat like a fish in a net. Maya's heart pounded. I don't know yet. In the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes peered from the shadows of the school's entrance, watching not just them, but something far worse waiting to be unleashed. What lurked within those shadows? And what had they truly awakened? Maya's heart raced as she squinted into the dark abyss of the woods, her instincts screaming at her to run. The glowing eyes flickered like lanterns in the deep, pulling her gaze, igniting a primal terror within her. Jake, we can't stay here. She shouted, her voice hoarse with fear. Without a word, Jake's hand found hers, and they bolted towards the trees, each step echoing with the chaos inside the school. Behind them, the window shattered again, and the figure now barely visible but unmistakably there emerged into the night, its form grotesque yet beautiful in its sinister grace. Crashing through the branches, they ducked low, hope battling with despair. Anna and Lisa were close behind, the group nearly collapsing into a leafy thicket. They crouched, hearts pounding like drums, each breath a reminder that the chase was only beginning. What the hell is that thing? Anna gasped, her voice a shaky whisper. I don't know. Just keep moving. Jake replied, the urgency in his voice a thin veil over his fear. Dread knotted their stomachs. The air felt wrong, heavy and suffocating, swirling with an unseen force, and every rustle in the underbrush sent icy shivers skittering up their spines. As they crept forward, shadows coiled around them. The moonlight struggled to break through the twisted branches, and for a moment, Maya thought she spotted a figure darting between the trees, but the thought vanished as an awful screech echoed behind them, wild, feral, an animalized reprimand for their escape. Run! Jake urged again, and they pushed forward, branches snapping underfoot, the wet ground squelching with every frantic step. Hours seemed to slip away in those moments as they sprinted deeper into the darkness, guided only by instinct, but just as the trees began to thin, a deep growl emerged from behind, resonating through their bones. It was as if something more than the shadows pursued them, an ancient evil lurking just out of sight. Maya, over there! Anna yelled, pointing frantically to an old shack partially swallowed by vines and decay. Do you think it's safe? Maya's breath was ragged, the fear staking its claim in her heart. Safe enough. We have to try. Jake insisted, pulling her along. They sprinted toward the decrepit structure, anything feeling better than facing whatever horror slithered behind them. Once inside, the smell hit them. Mold and neglect hung in the air. Broken furniture lay strewn about, and the faint sound of water dripping echoed emptily. They fell against the wall, trying to catch their breaths, listening for the footsteps that might follow. We'll wait here for a minute, Jake said, his voice steady but strained. A silence descended, but it was the kind that felt thick, suffocating, pressing against their chests. Maya, do you think it stopped? Lisa asked, her voice a whisper, barely cutting through the silence. I can't tell. Maya clutched her arms, sensing the air crackle with palpable dread. The terror had morphed from sheer anticipation into a quiet dread, and in that stillness, she sensed something was off. The shadows in the corners of the room felt alive, rooted in despair, watching. Suddenly, without warning, a low growl surged through the shack, shaking the very foundation of their decision to hide. The sound was close, closing in, reverberating against the walls as if it were a warning. They know we're here. Jake breathed. Before Maya could respond, a shadow shifted at the window, the eyes that had watched them from the school now staring hungrily, embers caught in a fire of malicious intent. Get out! Anna screamed, but something beyond the frail walls, an insidious presence, silenced her, wrapped around them like a noose. How? Lisa cried, panic spiraling. The shadows pressed closer, advancing on them, and then the door creaked slowly, a slow reveal of their would-be predator. Terror lit within Maya as she reached for the door, desperation spawning a fierce resolve. Whatever that is, she said, we're not letting it take us. We have to fight. The door shuddered violently as whatever waited on the other side. Prepared to enter, but from the growing darkness, a voice reached them, thin, whispering, slithering like smoke, are you ready to join the others? Maya's resolve faltered, dread flooding her heart. What other horrors awaited them in that relentless darkness? Would they be just another set of eyes in the shadows? The door trembled ominously, as if whatever was beyond it could sense the terror brewing within. Maya could barely breathe, her throat tight with fear. We need to barricade it. Now. She urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake, still clutching her hand, nodded vigorously, his eyes wide and frantic. Together, they rushed to the rotting shelves, yanking pieces of broken wood and discarded furniture into place. The creaking door protested again, as if taunting their feeble attempt at safety. A sinister growl spilled through the gaps, echoing like a death knell. It was low and guttural, vibrating through their bones and settling heavily in their stomachs. They all froze, holding their breath as the shadows pressed against the door. Lisa's voice trembled, what if it gets in? Don't say that. Anna shot back, her eyes darting nervously around the dim room, searching for anything that could ease her fear. But there was nothing. Only shadows that seemed to pulse with life, watching, waiting. Suddenly, a shriek erupted outside, high and piercing, followed by the sound of footsteps racing past the shack. It was chaos, a flurry of strange sounds that left them confused. "What is happening?" Jake whispered. Maybe they're fighting it," Lisa suggested, her voice a flicker of hope. How naive they were, clinging to the idea that anyone else was out there, braving the night. But hope quickly dissolved as the creature beyond the door resumed its low growl, louder now, more insistent. Maya's heartbeat rang in her ears as she realized the noise wasn't just from outside. It resonated inside the shack, as if the very walls were alive with the malevolence of whatever stalked them. With renewed urgency, she pressed her ear against the door. Maybe they could hear something, a hint of what lay beyond. And then she heard it, breathing. Faint, but unmistakably human. "Maya." "No." Jake grabbed her, pulling her away, but it was too late. She was drawn in, her ears pressed against the wood, desperate to discern the sounds. What if someone else out there? But that person, whoever they were, was not safe. A shadow shifted again, and a voice raspy and low seeped through the cracks. Come out, don't you want to play?" Maya stumbled back, fear gripping her throat. "We have to go. Now." "Where?" "There's no way out," Anna shouted, the panic thickening her voice. Just then, the door creaked open, splintered wood groaning beneath the pressure. They broke into a frenzy, grasping for anything to block it again, but the opening widened, an unnatural force forcing it ajar. With horror, they saw a silhouette forming within the doorway. The figure moved, slithering as if the darkness itself was granting it form, and then it spoke again, clearer this time. Let me in, let me in." Maya's hands shook as she grasped Jake's arm, her teeth clenched. "We can't let it in. Don't let it touch you." Suddenly, Jake remembered the old flashlight they had tossed aside earlier. "Quick! We can't let it see us." He darted across the room, grabbing it from the corner where it lay forgotten. As he flicked it on, beams of light sliced through the shadow, illuminating the darkness. But the creature paused, revealing a face that was both beautiful and grotesque, its features shifting and blurring, flickering like a dying flame. "What is it?" Lisa gasped. "They glow from the inside," Maya whispered, horrified. The creature's eyes expanded with hunger. "Shine it on it," Jake shouted. Maya's heart raced as she fumbled for the flashlight, adjusting the beam towards the creature. It recoiled, growling louder now, thrashing against the door frame. But as their eyes locked with the thing's, horror sunk deeper. A glimmer of recognition hit Maya. This was no ordinary monster. In a heartbeat, the whispers returned, wrapping themselves around her like chains. "They're all waiting for you. What does that mean?" she cried, frantic. Just then, the shack began to tremble, wooden beams splintering, leaving them exposed to the growing abyss outside. Shadows swirled, waiting, hungry. "Run!" Maya screamed, but as they turned, the darkness thickened around them, a living nightmare closing in. They had entered the predator's den, but what awaited them outside? Would they emerge to find salvation, or were they destined to meet their end in the hands of dread? One thing was certain, they couldn't stay. What waited for them beyond the darkness? Would they find a way out, or become but another whisper in the wind? The floor shifted beneath their feet, a sickening sensation as if the very ground beneath the shack was alive, writhing. The walls creaked like dying animals, grappling with the shadows that pressed in on every side. Moments stretched into eternity as Maya felt her lungs constricting tighter, the air thick and oppressive. There was no path left to choose. They had to fight or crumble. "Get to the window," Maya urged, her voice rising with fear. They scrambled toward the cracked panes, but the oppressive darkness coiled around them like a serpent intent on suffocation. Shadows lunged, flickering with a life of their own, tendrils reaching, clawing, pulling them further from any light. Lisa tripped and fell, her hands scraping against the rough floorboards as she yelped in pain. "Help! she cried, her voice a raw plea. Maya turned, desperation clawing at her heart. Lisa, get up. She reached back, but the dark mass lunged for Lisa, a snarl tearing through the cold air. No. Jake's heft shoved Maya aside as he dove for Lisa, dragging her up just as a shadow swept over them. The growl morphed into a roar, echoing in the confined space, shaking the walls. Maya, shine the light. Jake yelled, still gripping Lisa's arm tightly, his knuckles white. With trembling hands, Maya pointed the flashlight towards the growling mass, the beam cutting into the shadow. In a blinding instant, the creature flinched, revealing its true form once more, a blend of nightmares, beautiful yet horrifying, its glowing eyes boring into their souls. The room shivered, splitting with the anguish of a world unleashed. It doesn't like the light. Anna shouted, her brow glistening with sweat. Keep it on. Maya's heart thundered as they backed toward the window, the creature thrashing ominously. We need to break it. She urged. We can't. Lisa protested, gasping. The reality set in, they might be trapped here, spiraling into the very clutches of despair. There's no choice. We can't die in this wretched place. Maya shouted, forcing the panic boiling inside her into resolve. With one mighty blow, Jake hurled a chair at the glass, shards exploding outward in a frenzy. A gust of chill air swept through the opening, pushing against the shadows as if fighting their might. The creature shrieked, disoriented by the surge of light flooding into the room. Jump! Now! Maya commanded, diving through the broken window, cutting her arms on jagged glass. Anna was close behind, her determination fueled by fear. But as she leapt, the shadows writhed and lunged, one thick tendril snatching Anna's ankle like a vice. A scream burst from her lips, drowning in the turmoil as Maya reached out to her. Anna! No! Jake's shout was raw with desperation as he leapt back toward her. Don't! You can't help her! Maya screamed, grief and horror twisting her gut. Light flared anew as Maya swung the flashlight toward the encroaching darkness. It hesitated, recoiling. Let her go. She demanded, summoning courage she didn't know she had. Suddenly, the shadows fluttered, hesitating as if weighing the value of the prey. Then, in a catastrophic moment, Anna cried out, her fingers slipping from Jake's grasp, swallowed into the void. Anna! Maya sobbed, the horror of loss slicing through her. But there was no time. They had to escape. Now, Jake! Maya yanked him away, dragging him into the night as they scrambled from the shack, hearts pounding with terror and disbelief. Outside, the air felt electric, heavy with remnants of their nightmare. But the calm was deceptive. They stood at the edge of the forest, an expanse of shadow looming before them, trees whispering secrets too dark to comprehend. Where do we go? Jake gasped, his eyes wide with grief and fear. A distant howl echoed, a summoning sound that slithered through the air like a warning. Maya swallowed hard, her body shivering. We have to keep moving, she whispered, her throat dry. We can't look back. As they ventured into the trees, the haunting shadows seemed to awaken around them, echoes of lost souls drifting with the wind. Fear gripped Maya tight, the knowledge sinking into her what awaited them in the dark was far from over, and as the very ground began to shift again, they realized, even in flight, they were still prey. What haunted whispers lingered in the depths of that abyss? What clues were hidden among the shadows waiting for them, poised to reveal horrors they had never imagined? Branches clawed at Maya's face, snatching at her like the shadows had inside the shack. Each step was a battle, her feet sinking into the damp earth, the tension pulling taut through her veins. The howl that had echoed behind them clawed its way back into her mind, a warning trailing them through the dark. Keep moving. She urged, glancing back at Jake, his face pale, eyes wide like saucers. We can't stop. But Jake's breathing was ragged, and the raw edge of panic hung in the air. Maya, what if it comes after us? What if then we run faster? She snapped, the urgency spurring her on. They dove deeper into the darkness, the forest swallowing them whole. Each tree unfurled like a gnarled finger, all twisted, reaching for something they couldn't see. A flicker of movement caught Maya's eye, shadows dancing on the periphery. She swung the flashlight around, illuminating the grotesque shapes that lurked just out of reach. For every beam that sliced through the dark, 10 shapes flitted deeper into the blackness, from whistling winds to sinister laughter. "There's gotta be a road somewhere," Jake shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of fear. Maya pressed on, the underbrush thickening, gripping at their ankles like angry hands. "Just hold on to the light. Don't lose it." The woods creaked as if breathing around them, and with every heartbeat, Maya could feel the weight of unseen eyes studying their every move. She dared to look back, regretting her decision. The shadows remained, their edges blurring, long arms tracing her path like eager predators. "Maya," Jake whispered, falling half a step behind. "What?" "I think I heard something." A low growl reverberated through the trees, so close it sent a bone-chilling wave through her. Her grip on the flashlight tightened. "Just keep going. Don't look back." Yet she felt it, a shift in the air, a presence drawing closer. A rush of wind billowed past them, carrying a breath that felt uncomfortably warm, almost deliberate, against her skin. The night around them grew sententiously dark. They pushed through, limbs tearing against dry twigs like the shattering of brittle promises. "There!" Maya shouted, spotting a thin line of distant light between the tangled trees ahead. But the howl returned, louder now, penetrating the newfound hope. Shadows responded like a violent tide, surging toward them with almost tangible hunger. "Run!" Maya barked, fear igniting her muscles. They tore toward the distant light, but with every gasp, the shadows seemed to swell behind them, a viscous bank of darkness determined to consume them whole. Closer now, she could see it, a dilapidated cabin, like a vision of salvation amidst this nightmare. But as they approached, Maya noticed the front door dangling half open, creaking languidly in the wind. A faint glow pulsed from within, eerily beckoning. "Should we go in?" Jake hesitated, glancing at the gaping entrance. "We don't know what's there," Maya shot back, torn between the safety it promised and the danger surrounding it. But the shadows were creeping, and she felt time slipping away. "We need to check. Just a little further." "We can't," he cried, desperation making his voice tremble. With no time to argue, she reached for his hand. "Trust me." They stepped inside, the air turned heavy as they crossed the threshold, a shiver racing down her spine. The walls closed in, filled with dark memories crackling like static electricity. Shadows clung to the corners, whispering secrets lost to the night. Jake's voice trembled as he scanned the interior. "What if the light draws them here?" "I don't know," she hissed, her heart racing. "But we can't." And then, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud, locking out the night. Panic erupted, a physical thing swirling in the small space. "What just happened?" Jake panted. Maya swung the flashlight around, but the beams faltered, dimming as the shadow inhabitants stirred from the edges. Something was inside with them, watching, waiting. As they stood frozen, a low voice came from the darkness, slicing through the tension. "You think it's safe here? You're all mine now." What was lurking beyond the pale light? Was there any escape left for them? A wave of darkness brushed against Maya's back, cold and breathing. The path ahead grew tangled, and beyond the door, the shadows waited, and so did something worse. The darkness inside the cabin thickened, suffocating every sound, every thought. Maya's heart raced as she tightened her grip on the flashlight, fear surging through her like a frigid ripple. The low voice haunted her, a twisted melody threading through her mind. "You're all mine now." What did it mean? Jake was on the verge of hyperventilation, his wide eyes darting across the room. "Maya, what is happening? We can't stay here." His voice trembled, pulling Maya from the edge of her growing panic. "I don't know, but we need to find a way out," she forced out, swallowing hard. She turned to the door, dread clawing at her insides. "We can't just sit here." The darkness responded, a collective rustle echoing from the corners. Shadows formed shapes, indistinct yet disturbing, like a moving carpet of malice. She flashed the beam toward the back of the room. A figure, no, an outline hovered near the wall, its features indistinguishable yet steeped in menace. "Do you see that?" she breathed, pointing weakly. Jake gasped, nearly stumbling. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know." She turned the flashlight again, but the figure seemed to absorb the light, drawing her in with a wicked pull. A shimmering ripple spread across the surface of the wall behind it, and for a moment, she thought she saw a face, twisted and morose, lurking in the dark edges. "No more!" Jake shouted suddenly, jabbing a finger toward the door. "We need to Maya." The voice was louder now, surrounding them, curling in their ears. "You thought you'd be safe here? In my domain?" Maya staggered back, nearly losing her balance. "Get away from us!" she cried, her voice catching. The walls of the cabin seemed to pulse, breathing with a relentless hunger. Her pulse raced with each passing thump of her heart, echoing the sinister rhythm of whatever dwelled within these walls. A lurch formed in her gut as a cold wind swirled through the cabin, sending shivers down her spine. It felt alive, crawling beneath her skin. "We need to find a window." Jake gasped, eyes scanning frantically. "If we can just, what if that thing catches us?" Maya whispered, doubt creeping into her words. In that instant, the outline moved closer, fading into the dim corners of the room. Jake's breath hitched, his face was stark, reflecting pure terror. "We have to fight. Go for the window. Now." Clarity flashed in Maya's mind. "Right." She bolted toward the nearest window, the glass a deceptive barrier between them and the encroaching shadows. They crashed into it, the sudden impact sending tremors of fear coursing through her body. "It stuck!" she yelled, panic twisting in her throat. "No!" Jake shouted, turning back. "We can't." Before he could finish, the figure emerged, swirling toward them like smoke in the wind. "You'll never escape. My children are hungry, and they'll dine tonight." The walls echoed the sounds of 1,000 anguished cries, a cacophony of despair. Maya grabbed the flashlight and swung it haphazardly. "Get back!" she screamed, the light flickering against the encroaching darkness. The flashes revealed grotesque faces, a gallery of sorrow, their eyes hollow yet screaming for release. Jake grabbed her arm. "The door. We can break it down. There has to be a way." As desperation fueled them, a new noise emerged, a soft scratching between the wall's creaky planks. It grew louder, frantic. Maya's heart crashed against her rib cage. What was happening? The shadows shuddered, pulling back as if scared. She stared into the dark, waiting for something to emerge, something worse than what they faced. A flicker of hope flickered behind her fear. Maybe they weren't alone. Jake leaned in closer, whispering, "What if it's another person?" But as the scratching intensified, the walls groaned, trembling like a living thing. They exchanged frantic looks, knowing this cabin might hide not just one predator, but many. In that moment, a splintering sound rang through the air, followed by the creak of the back wall as if something was forcing its way inside. Maya's breath caught. What was coming? She could only hope for the slightest chance of light. Could something bad become something worse? They exchanged glances, adrenaline coursing through them. "Whatever it is, we can't stay here." The wall cracked wide, a funnel of dark energy swirling around them. With no choice left, they knew they had to fight or succumb to whatever horror lurked just beyond their senses. Was it a person? Or something much darker? The cabin's secrets clawed at the edges, begging to be unraveled, and whatever was on the other side was waiting to show them all too clearly what they were up against. What door would they choose next? Maya's heart thundered as she and Jake braced against the wall. Shadows twisted menacingly around them, closing in, as if sensing their desperation. The growling voice echoed in her mind, "You'll never escape." But escape was all they could think about. The scratching noise grew louder, a chaotic rhythm that echoed their fear, and suddenly, the wall cracked wide open. A blast of cold air surged through the room, swirling in like a wake-up call from a nightmare. Out of the fissure emerged a tattered form. Someone, or something, was being forced through the darkness. Maya's breath caught in her throat. What if it was another victim? Instinct screamed for her to flee, but something compelled her to stay. Through the narrow slit, she caught a glimpse of wild eyes, bone-white skin, and tangled hair. It was Anna, appearing more ghost than human, desperately clawing her way into the room. "Help!" she gasped, arms outstretched, panic etched deep into her features. "Anna!" Maya shouted, lunging forward as Jake joined her. They reached for her, pulling her through the gap just as the darkness shrieked, a terrible, anguished howl that rattled the entire cabin. The figure, still hovering just out of reach, flickered angrily as it realized they were slipping away. "No! Not again!" Jake cried, clenching Anna's arms. The shadows, now restless and frenzied, clawed against the walls. They could hear whispers taunting them, echoing threats laced with fury and hunger. "Get the door!" Maya yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins as the whispers grew louder. The shadows surged toward them, monstrous tendrils beginning to whip into the room. With quick instinct, they shoved against the door, sealing the entrance, but the murmurs intensified, piercing through the air like shards of glass. "That won't hold for long!" Anna cried, her voice shaking. "What do we do?" Maya panted, eyes flicking toward the window. "If we can just get through." But it was too late. The shadowy figure lunged, swift and furious, breaking through their makeshift door like it was made of paper. Maya's stomach dropped as she caught sight of the glistening eyes, more alive than ever, filled with an insatiable hunger. "Now!" she roared, the fight igniting fiercely within her. They charged for the window, hearts pounding a frantic beat in sync with their racing minds. Jake grabbed the flashlight, splashing beams of light toward the advancing darkness. Maya felt strength surge through her, a wild instinct pushing her forward to drag everyone out. "Jump!" she bellowed, lifting Anna toward the jagged glass. "No! I can't!" Anna screamed, eyes wide with terror. "Focus! We can't stay!" Jake echoed, shoving Maya behind him. As the darkness snaked closer, they squeezed through the shattered window, the shards glinting ominously like 1,000 glinting teeth. Maya pushed Anna ahead, leaping into the night air. A rush of wind swallowed them as they landed awkwardly on the cold, hard ground below. The shadows shrieked in fury, and they bolted into the forest, branches clawing at their limbs, urging them onward. "Where do we go?" Anna whispered, breathless. "Follow me!" Jake shouted, his voice a determined roar. There's no time to waste. They tore through the trees, fear pulsing through them like a living entity. The shadows hungered behind, relentless, no longer ghostly but a tangible horror that threatened to swallow them whole. The howls echoed louder now, and panic surged. Maya felt like prey, every instinct driving her to flee, to escape the grip of darkness closing in around them, and then, hope flickered when they spotted the edge of the woods, the road. Shimmering headlights blurred with hope, parking lights glinting as distant cars drove by. Maya pushed harder, intent on reaching the road that promised safety. Suddenly the shadows clashed with the light behind them, a horrid screech echoing through the air like the cries of the damned. "Release them!" A voice shouted from the depths, booming like thunder, and time seemed to freeze as they burst through the tree line. As they hit the pavement, a luminous darkness surged from the depths of the woods, but Jake's flashlight hit it full force, and for a moment, it recoiled, banished temporarily by the glow. The sound of their ragged breaths mingled with the distant screams of the creature holding on to its prey. But they were free, moving toward the flickering streetlight ahead. "Maya!" Anna's voice broke the spell. "Where are we going?" "To the next house. We need to call for help. Someone has to know." Maya shouted, urgency clawing at her throat. Jake took her hand, pulling her along as they raced toward the nearest home. Lights were still on, and she could see silhouettes moving through the windows. Maybe hope would blossom here. Maya. Jake. Anna's voice wavered as they reached the porch, and just as they began banging on the door all hell broke loose behind them. The road dimmed, shadows creeping forth, hungry for more souls to consume. No. No. They yelled, hurling themselves against the door until, finally, it swung open. A frightened woman stared back at them, confusion etched in her eyes. What is happening? What is wrong? Help us. Please. Maya cried, inhaling desperation. The shadows loomed closer, curling at the edges of reality, hungry for what they had found. They whipped around. The woman stepped back, dread filling her gaze. Get inside. With a firm shove, she pulled them in, slamming the door shut against the encroaching night. Shadows flickered through the windows, relentless in their pursuit. Call someone. Call the police. Maya urged, her heart racing against the silence of the safe space around them. They had escaped, but their fight wasn't over. Even as the woman reached for her phone, the shadows lashed out at the walls outside, furious at being denied. What is happening? What did you awaken? She whispered, eyes widening with realization. Maya felt a lump of dread in her throat. We don't know. But something terrible has been awakened. As the screams faded into the distance, doubt crept in, pulling at the corners of their minds. They thought they were safe, but shadows have a way of finding you, and deep down, Maya knew this was just the beginning. The door shuddered under the weight of the darkness pressing against it, shadows not just waiting but hungry to reclaim what they lost. Maya shivered. In that moment, as they huddled together, she realized some doors should never be opened. And as the night stretched on, the shadows whispered secrets that would haunt them forever, leaving them wondering if they were merely moments away from the next fight for survival. This had only just begun. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support. This is the moment to act. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.